Hello guys, and welcome to another video of Power BI for Sports. What we're going to look at today is how to create a table that contains our thresholds information and enables us to view our training data as a percentage of match intensity. So what I've done here is I've imported my match average values, and now I'm seeing my data as a percentage of the metric of the match value. So in this case, I have some players here that trained, for example, for total distance, they trained between 50 and 60%. So that is showing some of the values in blue. You can see that every color indicates a different range of values. So anything under 50% is shown as yellow. Anything that's over 100% is shown as red. So that enables you to view your data not only as an absolute value, but as relative to the match intensity that they've trained at. And you can see that this is able to maintain the same dashboard, the same rules. All your settings will be kept in the same place. All you have to do is import a new session, and all of those rules and all of those conditional formats for your table is going to be applied. So stay tuned to see how to import your thresholds and how to view your data as a percentage of match intensity. So for this report, what we're going to need is an Excel table that is going to contain our match data. So basically this can be either your match average or your match top values achieved for each metric, and then again you can work this out at an individual level, at a position level, or as a general team setting. So what you do is you just pick the metrics that you want to include in the report. In this case I just brought up these 6 metrics as an example. And I put for each one of my players, I have the value that they achieved during a match. So this is obviously 90-minute match data. And for each player, I worked out from, this can be either from your last 3 games or your last 5 games or all of your games. This is completely up to you on what method you want to do to obtain your match data. So I'm going to create this table here with all of my values. And then I'm going to come to my already existing Power BI dashboard, and I'm going to import that table right here. So go ahead and find the file that contains your tables, and then just select whatever data file you want to import. So just select that table we created and go and load. So as you can see from my screen, this is my session report that I have created, and I have shown how to create it in another tutorial for another video. So make sure you follow this link on the top right corner if you want to know how to create a session report like this. But obviously the problem and the limitation of this report is that you can see the values of what my players did in my training session, but you can't see how that looks like in relation to their match data. So in this case, I have a player here that running 3,900 meters total distance, but I don't know whether that's 50% of the match average, if that's 70%. So we want to provide a little bit more context onto what the value means on what our player metrics represent in our training reports. So once you have that table imported here, I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate this page just so I keep the same structure of it, and I'm going to take these away. And for this case, in this video, we're going to make, instead of making a bar graph, we're actually just going to make a table. So I know a lot of you from the conversations I've had with some of you is that you actually prefer a table instead of a bar chart, because a table allows you to view the value and to view multiple metrics in the same page. And one more thing that we're going to touch on today is how to give a conditional format to each value so that it changes the color according to the value that it has. So the next step here will be to create a measure that's going to indicate what percentage of our match load is the current data indicating. So just like a match percentage measure. So for this, we're going to have an item from each one of these 2 tables here. So if I didn't mention before, what I have here is the first table that I have imported here is my data dump, which I mentioned in one of my previous videos on how to create a GPS database. So this is just my major database where I have all of my season's data. And then the other table that I have is just my match information, that is the one that I mentioned before. So using these two tables, we're going to create a new measure. So come up here to the ribbon and click on the calculator icon for new measure. And one important thing is that we're going to have to create one measure for each metric that you want to do. So for example, if I want to have first my total distance metric expressed as a percentage, I'm going to have to do one for total distance. And then if I have my accelerations, decelerations, I'm going to have to do one for each one of those. So the first one I'm going to do is my total distance metric. So I'm just going to call that total distance percentage. And then it's just a very simple calculation where I'm going to type in average of my total distance. So this is where you put the total distance that you have in your data dump file. Close the bracket and then just divide that by, type in average again. And then you come to your match average table and you find the match total distance information that you have established. Close that bracket, and very importantly, you have to change right here when you choose the type of data that you have. It's going to be preset as general. It's very important that you click here and you click on percentage. Perfect. So now you're going to find that new measure that I just created, total distance percentage, right here. So again, you're going to have to create each one of these for each one of the metrics that you have. So in my case, I have 6 metrics, and you're going to go ahead and quickly create the same formula for my other metrics. Perfect. So now I've created all of those measures for all of my metrics. So now one final step that we have to do is to create a relationship between the player name column. So if we come to the model tab, this is where we have our two tables. We're going to come to manage relationships. We're going to create a new relationship. So just select the two tables here. You have your data dump table and the match average. And all you have to do is click on the player name column of the data dump file and then click on the player display name of your other table. So whatever name is the table, whatever name is the column of the table there where you have your player names, just click on those two. And it's very important that the player names are written exactly the same on both files. So just click OK on that and just check that you have your relationship created here. Perfect, and we just close this bracket here. And now you're going to see that that relationship loaded here between your two tables. So if you come back to your dashboard, now we can go ahead and create our table in the dashboard with the information that we want. So the first thing is to include your player name on that table. So just find the player name column and drag it across to the table, and then all you have to do is find all of the different measures that we created just before, and then drag them also across to the table. So for my distance, got high speed running, say explosive distance. Just drag them all across your table, as many as you want. So now I just want to do a couple of quick things to clean up my data and make my table look a bit better. So first I'm going to remove those 2 decimal values, which I definitely don't need. For that, I actually have to come to my measure directly and just reduce the number of decimal places here. I'm just going to type in 0. And I'm going to do that for the rest of my measures too. Perfect. And I'm also going to just increase the size of those values a bit more. So if I just come to my values segment and scroll down, increase the text size, just put that in 12, okay? And same thing for my column headers. Great, so once you're happy with the size of your table and the contents of your table, the next thing we're going to do now is to assign a color to each one of those values. So this is the part that they call conditional formatting. So what we're going to do is we're going to assign color to each value that we are seeing here in the table. So these are the colors that I want to be using today. So I want my table to indicate any values that are between 0 and 50% to be shown as yellow, between 50 and 70 to be blue, 70 and 100% green, and anything over 100% to be shown as red. So it's completely up to you on how you want to do these colors, all the different thresholds that you want to apply. Obviously that's up to you. So I'm going to use those colors. I'm going to show you how to apply the conditional formatting to this table here. So unfortunately you're going to have to do that value by value. So if you have 6 values like me, you're going to have to do this 6 times. So you're going to click on the down arrow of the value here and you're going to go to conditional formatting. So actually there's different types of conditional formatting that you can do. You can do it for the background color, for the font color, for data bars, icons. For today we're actually just going to do background color so that we are able to highlight nice and clear what values we want to see. So if we go to background color, and we're going to first select format by rules, so that we're going to create our own rules. This one's going to be applied to our total distance percentage. So again, you're going to have to do this for each one of the metrics in your table. So our first rule will be if the value is greater or equal than 0, change it to number, and it's less than, so this is where we want to put 50%. The only limitation right now with Power BI is that if you type in 50%, it's not going to work because you actually have to use these values instead. So if you want to do 50%, you have to type in 0.5. And the same thing for any other percentage value. If you want to do 70%, it's 0.7, 100 will be 1, and so on. So we're going to have to come back here. So for 50%, we're going to type in 0.5 as a number, and then we're going to select the color that we want to be applied for that rule. So let's go for yellow. On to our next rule. This time we're going to select from 0.5 to 0.7, which is 50 to 70%. Make sure that that is always set as a number. Select our next color. I'm just going to create the same rule for all the rest of the values that you have. So this one's 0.7 to 1, which will represent 100. Let's put a nice green over there. Yep. And then one last one, which is from 1. I actually want anything that is greater than 1. I'm just going to put that as 1.5. Red. And just before we hit OK, just make sure that this is also applied to the values and to the totals, so that it's also applied to that total row here at the bottom. Okay, so once we hit OK here, just make sure that you recreate that rule. So now we can see that that rule has been applied right here. So any values up to 50% are shown as yellow. And now as I move on to a different session, you're going to see how those colors and the rules are still applied for everything that I have here. So now the only thing that you have to do now would be to do the same steps again for each one of these metrics. Perfect. So now you can see that all of my metrics has now been applied to the conditional formatting. You can see the colors that represent each one of my value in the ranges that I have established. So you can see everything in green, between 70 and 100%, in yellow everything that's under that value, and then finally blue and red, red meaning anything excessive above 100%. And then finally, just one more thing that you can do to just provide a bit more of information in your dashboard is to change this part here. So instead of showing the absolute value of the metrics, you can just come and input the same measure that we created before, and just to show the average of the team of what they did in terms of the intensity of match percentage. So on average, my team trained today at 44% of match intensity. And you can do the same thing for all the other metrics as well. So that's it for today. Now you can see that for every one of my sessions, I have my rules applied for my conditional formatting. You don't have to do this over and over again. You only have to do it once, and then the next time you only have to update your data dump with your most recent training session. Hit refresh, and that's going to automatically update your Power BI dashboard. And it's that easy. And now you can have a nice and clear reports that show which players train at which intensity of their match percentage. So thanks a lot for tuning in and seeing this video. If you have any questions or comments, just drop me a message below, or you can direct message me on Twitter. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you next time.